So you unveiled a slew of new products today. You're redesigning the desktop product. You're improving the feed. You're adding in bots. How do you expect these things to fit into the roadmap of increasing user engagement ahead of this acquisition?
Yeah, well, feeds, helping our members to stay connected and informed is one of our central value propositions. And that's really at the foundation of our flagship application, both mobile and, as you mentioned today, we're going to be redesigning the desktop as well. So continue to invest very aggressively in creating the most relevant news feed possible within a professional context. Messaging makes it much easier for people to keep in touch with their network, for people to reach out to the people they want to be doing business with. And that overhaul, relative to the prior inbox, we've seen very material lift. So over 240% year-over-year growth there. So these things all kind of compound to lift engagement.
Now, I know we're waiting for the acquisition to close, but you said on stage you've been rolling up your sleeves, digging in with the team. Let us in on what it's like to plan for an integration like this.
Yeah, there's a lot of clarity in terms of the value that can be generated by virtue of leveraging LinkedIn's unique assets, identity assets, connection assets, some of our business applications, and to integrate that as seamlessly as possible on top of Microsoft's footprint of north of 1 billion users. It's one of only a handful of technology companies that reach 1 billion plus users on a global basis. So we've been working with teams, the Outlook team, for example, the Windows team, the Office team, the Dynamics team, to think about what's possible and prepare so that once we close, we can hit the ground with our feet running.
What integrations should we expect to see first?
Yeah, so first, I wouldn't be predicting first in terms of chronological order, but some of the areas that we think make absolute sense, integrating LinkedIn identity assets within Outlook, for example, Outlook.com, so that when someone sends you an email, you know who they are. If you're less familiar with them, you're able to add them to your network if it makes sense. If you're already familiar with them, you see if they changed the job, changed company, what they've shared recently, so it really brings the inbox to life in that regard. There's some really interesting stuff we can do with regard to Windows integration in terms of the Activity Center and notifications. We'd love to more deeply integrate some of our learning assets into Windows, into Office, and then Dynamics with regard to continuing to differentiate some of the business applications that are generating real momentum on Microsoft through leveraging Sales Navigator, things we can do with Recruiter in terms of human capital management. So those are some of the areas of focus.
Now, I understand the idea is for LinkedIn to remain largely independent. Reid Hoffman told me, sort of like Facebook and Instagram. How do you expect this to work in practice, and how do you think it will impact the culture of LinkedIn that you've worked very hard to build?
Yeah, from day one, Satya said it's really important that we continue to focus on growing LinkedIn, on realizing our mission and accelerating the realization of our mission and vision. And both teams are completely aligned behind that objective. So that makes it a lot easier. It's also made easier by the fact that, to your point about culture, that's oftentimes where a lot of M&A goes off the rails. You have two disparate cultures, misaligned. And in this particular case, the underlying cultures of both companies are already naturally aligned in terms of being mission-driven. Satya has been very mission and purpose-driven since he's taken on the role of CEO. In terms of being innovative, in terms of trying to create a sense of openness and the speed and agility required to make that stuff happen. So along those lines, we're seeing a lot of alignment